So the next part of the money game, right, is actually saving. I know that in our culture, we make money, we spend money, and then whatever, if there is anything left over, we then decide that we're going to save, right? It's actually the opposite that should be happening. And I think for a lot of us, we feel like if we don't have a lot to save, then saving is not worth it, right? But savings is first a habit. So it's a mindset shift before it becomes something that grows. Also, in terms of money, the thing that you have that is your best friend in growing wealth and investing is time. So initially, it's about you creating the habit of paying yourself first, even if it's $10 a month, right? It does not have to be thousands and hundreds of dollars. Create the habit of putting something small aside for yourself every month, right? That you then put in a savings account, right? With retail banking that we'll talk about, and you allow compounded interest in time to let that money grow. You also need to have a goal in mind of what it is that you want to save, right? So they say 3 months, 6 months. For a lot of folks, it's like, if I'm saving $10 a month, the thought of saving for 6 months, right? It seems overwhelming. It doesn't seem like it's worth it. So you decide, what is the goal that you are saving for? If it's to buy a property, right, and you have that level of income, that's fantastic. But if it's for a vacation for you and your family, that also works as well, right? And then you also want to name your savings goal, right? What are you saving for? And so for me, I'll say, this is my vacation account. This is my education account, right? So that the money then becomes real. It's not just stuff that I'm putting aside just to be putting it aside. There are actual like real things in my mind that are associated with that money. So like when I'm in the process now of thinking about buying a place. Well, I have a house savings account that I've been saving in for years, but it's named my house savings. And so I knew where the money was going if the time came, and I knew how much needed to be in that account in order to get the type of home that I thought I would want to live in. The part that we'll talk about is saving, right? So once you have an idea of what it is that you make, you also have an idea of paying yourself first, right? That's saving. So then when you start to think about saving, one of the things is, what is the best place for your money? I know a lot of times we're like, oh, just put it in a savings account. And so if you have a checking account with Wells Fargo or Bank of America or whoever, you're like, okay, let me just keep all of my money in one place and then save it. Sometimes that is not the best place for your money, right? And so as you start to think about retail banks and where you want to keep that money that you're saving every month, regardless of how small it is, here are some things to consider, right? Are there fees associated with the account? For a lot of the larger banks, there are minimum balance fees, right? And then there's also like annual or monthly maintenance fees. Well, that's not really how you don't want to be saving money to be paying fees. So looking through what those fees are. The second thing is, are there minimum balances, right? If you're starting small and growing your money, you don't want to be penalized and losing some of that money because there are minimum balances that until your money grows, you may not be able to meet every month. And so look through the minimum balances. The third thing is interest rates. So I used to have a savings account at Chase, and I realized it was like getting no money. There was no interest. The money wasn't growing. I think in 8 months, I gained like 3 cents or 4 cents or something like that, right? And so for me, it was finding a place where I could put my money where it could grow at a higher rate. And so I went from the traditional retail bank to an online savings account with Goldman Sachs. And like the interest on the same money is growing. It's accumulating a lot faster and a lot more. How will you be depositing money into the account? So if you want to do an online savings account, you would not be able to deposit a bunch of cash into it, right? You'd want to have a traditional retail bank that has traditional ATMs and all those things because you don't want to be paying ATM fees. The other thing is like, how frequently will you need to access the money? So depending on the bank that you have, if it's an online account versus a retail bank or a neighborhood bank, you may be able to get your money out quickly, or for some banks, like for me, it's a 3-day transfer, right? So if it's cash that I'm going to need access to pretty immediately, that would inform where I would put my money to have it grow.